The Millionaire's Mask, from a fake romance to a genuine love story. In the high-stakes world of tech innovation, Daniel, a sharp and determined CEO, is feeling the pressure to outshine his competitors. With a critical deal on the line, he hatches a bold plan, one that's as risky as it is unconventional. To impress a key investor, he asks Clara, his diligent but unassuming assistant, to pose as his girlfriend during an upcoming business trip. For Clara, the proposal is equal parts baffling and tempting. Reluctantly, she agrees, seeing the opportunity as a chance to advance her career and leave her mark beyond her administrative role. As they dive into rehearsals, perfecting every detail of their fictional relationship, the lines between professional and personal begin to blur. But just as the plan seems foolproof, complications arise. The sudden appearance of Mariana, Daniel's ex and a cunning rival, threatens to unravel their carefully crafted story. Her piercing gaze and sly accusations make Clara question her decision, and Daniel's protective instincts reveal a side of him Clara never expected. What starts as a calculated act soon turns into something neither of them anticipated. Can they keep up the charade, or will the truth, and their growing emotions, bring everything crashing down? The answer lies in a journey filled with tension, vulnerability, and the unlikeliest spark of all, love. The bustling city lights shimmered through the towering glass windows of Daniel's office as he leaned back in his sleek leather chair, lost in thought. His tailored navy blue suit was immaculate, and his dark hair was combed with precision, reflecting his image as a man who left nothing to chance. But tonight, even his usual confidence seemed to waver. The competition was fierce, and he needed someone, to help him secure the biggest deal of his career. "Clara, can you step in for a moment?" he called out, his voice cutting through the silence of the office. Clara, his assistant, entered with her tablet in hand, her expression professional as always. She wore a simple beige blouse tucked into a pencil skirt, her auburn hair tied neatly in a ponytail. Her hazel eyes carried a mixture of curiosity and caution. Clara had been working for Daniel for 2 years and had learned to expect the unexpected. "Yes, Mr. Carter," she asked, her tone even. Daniel hesitated before speaking, a rare occurrence for him. "I have an unusual proposition," he began, choosing his words carefully. "I need you to pretend to be my girlfriend during the upcoming business trip." Clara blinked, momentarily thrown off guard. "Your girlfriend?" she repeated, unsure if she had heard him correctly. "Yes," Daniel said, leaning forward. "This client we're meeting is old-fashioned, values family connections. I need to make an impression, and having someone like you by my side, someone poised, intelligent, would give me an edge." Clara frowned, her mind racing. "And why me? Don't you have, I don't know, actual girlfriends for this sort of thing?" Daniel chuckled, though it sounded forced. "Not ones I can trust in a professional setting. Look, I know it's unorthodox, but I'm willing to compensate you generously for the inconvenience. Think of it as a role, an extension of your job." The idea sounded ridiculous, even to Clara. But as she considered it, the prospect of a promotion and the chance to prove her worth beyond her assistant role gave her pause. Still, her hesitation lingered. What exactly would this involve? "Nothing inappropriate," Daniel assured her quickly. "We'd craft a believable story, rehearse a few details, and keep it simple. Think of it as a business partnership." Clara sighed, crossing her arms. "And if I say no?" Daniel gave her a faint smile. "Then I'll respect your decision. But if you say yes, you'll have my full support in advancing your career. You've always wanted to do more, haven't you?" Clara looked down, conflicted. Daniel wasn't wrong. This could be her chance to break free from the monotony of her current position. "Fine," she said finally. "I'll do it. But only for the trip." "Deal," Daniel said, standing and extending a hand. "Let's make it work." Over the next few days, their office transformed into a rehearsal space. Daniel, ever meticulous, insisted they rehearse everything, from how they spoke to each other to how they posed for photos. Clara found herself practicing smiles in front of the mirror, perfecting the art of looking like she was genuinely smitten. "Okay," Daniel said one evening, holding up a list of questions. "What's our story? How did we meet?" Clara rolled her eyes. "Can't we just say I was your assistant and it blossomed from there?" Daniel frowned. "Too obvious. It needs a little flair. Let's say we met at a gallery opening. You were admiring a piece, and I struck up a conversation." "Fine," Clara said, jotting it down. "And how long have we been dating?" 6 months, Daniel decided. Long enough to seem serious but not suspicious. As the details fell into place, Clara began to notice subtle shifts in Daniel. The usually stoic CEO revealed glimpses of warmth and humor she hadn't seen before. And while she wouldn't admit it, she found herself looking forward to their rehearsals. Finally, the day of the trip arrived. Clara stood outside Daniel's car, nervously adjusting the hem of her navy dress. The fabric clung to her figure in a way that made her feel both powerful and vulnerable. Daniel stepped out of the driver's side, looking effortlessly suave in a charcoal suit. "You look great," he said, his tone surprisingly genuine. "Thanks," Clara replied, trying to hide her nerves. "Ready to fool everyone?" Daniel smirked. "With you by my side?" "Absolutely." The private jet ride to the conference was surreal. Clara had never flown in such luxury: polished leather seats, crystal glassware, and a view of the clouds that felt otherworldly. But despite the opulence, the weight of their plan hung heavy between them. As they landed and checked into the Grand Hotel, Daniel pulled Clara aside. "Remember, confidence is key. We've got this." Clara nodded, drawing strength from his steady gaze. "Let's do it." That evening, they attended a formal networking event. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers and the soft murmur of conversations. Clara stayed close to Daniel, their rehearsed dynamic flowing naturally. She laughed at his jokes, touched his arm lightly, and smiled at his clients with practiced ease. But beneath the polished exterior, Clara couldn't help but feel out of place. She noticed the curious glances from other attendees, the way some women whispered behind their champagne flutes. Still, Daniel's unwavering presence grounded her. "You're doing great," he murmured as they mingled. "Thanks," Clara replied, her voice steadied despite the butterflies in her stomach. As the night wore on, Clara began to feel the smallest glimmer of confidence. For the first time, she wasn't just Daniel's assistant. She was his equal, or at least, she was pretending to be. And in the glitz and glamour of that evening, it almost felt real. But deep down, Clara knew this charade was only the beginning, and the challenges ahead would test not just their plan but their ability to keep their growing emotions in check. The conference hall buzzed with activity as executives, investors, and industry leaders filled the grand space. Clara stood beside Daniel, her posture poised but her mind racing. The previous night's event had gone smoothly, and she felt a small sense of relief. But today would be different: more scrutiny, more interactions, and more chances for their facade to falter. "You ready?" Daniel asked, adjusting his cufflinks as they prepared to enter the networking session. "As ready as I'll ever be," Clara replied, forcing a confident smile. "Good," Daniel said, his tone reassuring. "Just stick with me, and we'll be fine." The morning unfolded seamlessly. Clara played her role as the attentive and charming partner, nodding along during business conversations and exchanging polite pleasantries with other attendees. Daniel, ever the consummate professional, was in his element, commanding attention and exuding confidence with every word. Together, they made a striking pair, drawing compliments from colleagues and clients alike. But just as Clara began to feel at ease, a familiar voice cut through the air. "Daniel, is that you?" They turned to see Mariana, a statuesque brunette in a tailored red dress, approaching with a predatory smile. Her presence was magnetic, and the room seemed to shift as she walked in. Clara immediately recognized her as the woman from the photos in Daniel's office, the ex-girlfriend and fierce competitor he rarely mentioned. "Mariana," Daniel said coolly, his expression neutral. "What a surprise." Mariana's eyes flicked to Clara, her smile widening. "And who is this?" she asked, her tone dripping with feigned sweetness. "This is Clara," Daniel said, placing a hand on Clara's back. "My girlfriend." Clara extended a hand, her smile practiced but strained. "Nice to meet you." Mariana's handshake was firm, her gaze piercing. "Girlfriend, huh? That's unexpected." Daniel's never been the settle-down type. Clara's stomach tightened, but she held her ground. "Well, I guess there's a first time for everything." Mariana let out a soft laugh, clearly unconvinced. "How lovely." "So, Clara, what do you do?" "I work in tech," Clara replied smoothly, thankful for the rehearsed answer. "It's actually how Daniel and I met, at a networking event." "How charming," Mariana said, her eyes narrowing slightly. "You must have quite the connection." The rest of the day felt like walking a tightrope. Mariana's presence was a constant shadow, her pointed questions and sly remarks keeping Clara on edge. At lunch, Mariana conveniently ended up at their table, her conversation filled with thinly veiled jabs. "So, Clara," she said, swirling her wine glass, "what's it like dating someone like Daniel? Must be hard to keep up with his schedule." "It's challenging," Clara admitted, her tone even. "But we make it work." Mariana raised an eyebrow. "How inspiring. You must be very patient." Clara bit her tongue, refusing to rise to the bait. Daniel, sensing her discomfort, interjected. "Mariana, I'm sure Clara and I will be just fine without the unsolicited advice." Mariana smirked but didn't press further, her gaze lingering on Clara a moment too long. As the day wore on, Clara found herself growing increasingly frustrated. The constant scrutiny, the subtle digs, it was exhausting. By the time they returned to their hotel room that evening, her composure was beginning to crack. "That woman is unbearable," Clara said, kicking off her heels and sinking onto the couch. "How did you ever date her?" Daniel loosened his tie and sighed. "It was a long time ago. She's always been intense." "Intense?" Clara echoed, her voice tinged with disbelief. "She's trying to sabotage us." "I know," Daniel admitted, sitting across from her. "But we can't let her win. She's looking for a reason to discredit me, and by extension, us. We have to stay strong." Clara ran a hand through her hair, exhaling sharply. "Easier said than done." Daniel leaned forward, his expression softening. "You're doing great, Clara. Better than I could have hoped for. Don't let her get in your head." Clara looked at him, surprised by the sincerity in his tone. "Thanks," she said quietly. "I just don't want to mess this up." "You won't," Daniel said firmly. "We're a team, remember?" Despite Daniel's reassurances, the next day brought more challenges. Mariana's persistence was relentless, and Clara struggled to maintain her composure under the weight of her scrutiny. During a panel discussion, Mariana strategically positioned herself near Clara, her whispered comments a constant distraction. "You're good at this," Mariana said casually, leaning in. "Almost too good. Makes me wonder if it's all an act." Clara's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral. "I guess I just have a natural talent for this sort of thing." "Or maybe you've had practice," Mariana suggested, her smile sharp. "Tell me, Clara, how long have you and Daniel really been together?" Clara turned to face her fully, her hazel eyes steady. "Long enough to know we're right for each other." Mariana raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. "If you say so." That evening, as Clara and Daniel prepared for the final gala of the conference, Clara voiced her concerns. Mariana's going to keep pushing until she finds a crack, she said, adjusting her necklace in the mirror. What if she figures out the truth? She won't, Daniel said confidently, buttoning his jacket. She's fishing for something she can't prove. As long as we stay consistent, she'll have nothing to go on. Clara turned to him, her expression serious. I hope you're right. I am, Daniel said, stepping closer. We've come this far, Clara. Don't let her shake you. Clara nodded, drawing strength from his unwavering confidence. But as they headed to the gala, a nagging doubt lingered in her mind. The stakes were higher than ever, and she couldn't shake the feeling that Mariana was just waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The grand ballroom was alive with music and laughter as Clara and Daniel entered the gala together. Clara's deep emerald dress shimmered under the crystal chandeliers, drawing admiring glances from across the room. Daniel, as polished as ever in his tailored tuxedo, guided her with an easy confidence. To the outside world, they appeared every bit the perfect couple, but beneath the surface, a storm of emotions was brewing. As they made their rounds, Clara noticed how Daniel's demeanor softened when he spoke to her. His usual sharp edges seemed to blur, replaced by something she couldn't quite name. And though she tried to focus on maintaining their charade, she couldn't deny the warmth that bloomed in her chest each time he smiled at her. The night wore on, and Clara found herself increasingly drawn to Daniel, not the commanding CEO she worked for, but the man beneath the title. She saw it in the way he listened intently during conversations, the way he guided her effortlessly across the dance floor, and the rare moments of vulnerability he allowed to peek through. It was disarming, and it made her question everything she thought she knew about him. During a quiet moment on the balcony, Clara turned to Daniel. This feels surreal, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel looked at her, his blue eyes searching hers. What does? This, she said, gesturing to the scene inside. All of it. Us. Pretending like we're something we're not. Daniel's gaze didn't waver. Does it still feel like pretending? The question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. Clara opened her mouth to respond but found herself at a loss for words. She didn't need to answer, Daniel could see the conflict in her eyes. Their moment was interrupted by the arrival of Mariana, her sharp voice slicing through the quiet. There you two are, she said, her tone overly cheerful. Hiding away from the party, are we? Clara forced a polite smile. Just needed some air. Mariana stepped closer, her red dress a stark contrast to the calm evening. How romantic, she said, her gaze flicking between them. But tell me, Clara, what's it really like being with Daniel? I imagine it's challenging. Clara straightened, her jaw tightening. Not at all. He's everything I could ask for. Mariana's smile didn't falter, but her eyes gleamed with suspicion. Is that so? Well, I suppose you'd know better than anyone. With that, she turned and walked back inside, leaving an uncomfortable silence in her wake. Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. She's relentless. She's suspicious, Clara said. And she's not wrong to be. Daniel looked at her, his expression unreadable. What do you mean? I mean this whole thing is a lie, Clara said, her voice rising slightly. And the more we try to convince everyone it's real, the more I feel like I'm losing track of what's actually true. Daniel stepped closer, his tone firm but gentle. Clara, listen to me. This isn't just about impressing clients or outsmarting Mariana. It's about us. And I need you to know. I don't think it's all pretend anymore. Clara's breath caught at his words. She searched his face, looking for any sign of insincerity, but found none. Daniel, she began, her voice wavering, if you're just saying that because. I'm not, he interrupted. I've been trying to ignore it, to push it aside, but I can't. You're more than just my assistant, Clara. You're more than I ever realized. Her heart raced, torn between the truth in his words and the fear of what it meant. "You can't just say that," she whispered. "Not here. Not now." "I know," Daniel said softly. "But I couldn't keep pretending." The tension between them lingered as they rejoined the party, each lost in their own thoughts. Clara found herself distracted, her mind replaying Daniel's words over and over. She tried to focus on the event, but the weight of their conversation made it impossible. Later that evening, as they prepared to leave, an investor approached them with a wide smile. "You two make quite the pair," he said, clapping Daniel on the back. "A power couple if I've ever seen one." Clara forced a laugh, but the comment only deepened the turmoil in her chest. She couldn't keep up the charade any longer, not when her own feelings were becoming harder to ignore. Back in their hotel room, Clara decided to confront Daniel. "We need to talk," she said, closing the door behind her. Daniel turned, his expression serious. "I agree." Clara took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. Whatever this is between us, it's confusing, messy and completely unprofessional." Daniel stepped closer, his gaze steady. "I know. And yet," Clara continued, her voice trembling, "I can't pretend I don't feel something. But I also can't keep playing this game." Daniel nodded, his jaw tightening. "Neither can I, Clara, I meant what I said. This isn't just a charade for me anymore. I care about you, more than I should." Clara looked at him, her resolve softening. "Then what do we do?" Daniel hesitated, then reached for her hand. "We stop pretending. And we figure this out together." For the first time in days, Clara felt a sense of clarity. The road ahead was uncertain, and the risks were high, but she knew one thing for sure, she couldn't keep denying her feelings. And as she stood there, her hand in Daniel's, she realized that perhaps, against all odds, this was something worth fighting for. The morning after their heartfelt conversation, Clara and Daniel sat in the hotel cafe, sipping coffee and discussing their next move. The air between them felt lighter, but the weight of what they were about to do loomed large. "We need to be honest," Daniel said, his voice steady. "No more pretending." Clara nodded, though her nerves were evident. "What if they don't believe us? What if this backfires?" "Then it backfires," Daniel replied firmly. "But at least we'll be telling the truth. That's better than living a lie." The conference's final event, a networking luncheon, was buzzing with energy as attendees mingled and shared last-minute pitches. Clara and Daniel arrived together, their usual polished facade intact, but their hearts raced with anticipation. Mariana, of course, was there, her sharp eyes tracking their every move. As Daniel stepped onto the stage to deliver his closing remarks, Clara watched from the crowd, her palms clammy. He began his speech with the usual confidence, thanking the attendees and emphasizing the importance of collaboration in their industry. But as he neared the end, his tone shifted. "I also want to address something personal," Daniel said, his gaze sweeping across the room. "Many of you have met Clara during this conference. She's not just my assistant, she's someone I deeply care about. What started as a professional partnership has become much more." The room fell silent, the hum of conversations replaced by murmurs of surprise. Clara felt the weight of hundreds of eyes on her, her cheeks flushing. Daniel continued, his voice unwavering. "I'm sharing this because I believe in transparency, in business and in life. Clara and I are a team, and I'm proud to stand beside her." As Daniel stepped down, the crowd erupted in a mix of applause and whispers. Mariana, standing near the back, raised an eyebrow and smirked. "How touching," she said, her voice laced with sarcasm as she approached Clara. "Quite the performance." Clara met Mariana's gaze, her nerves giving way to quiet resolve. "It's not a performance," she said firmly. "What Daniel said is the truth." Mariana tilted her head, her expression skeptical. "Convenient timing, don't you think?" Clara took a deep breath. Believe what you want, but I'm done pretending for your benefit. Mariana's smirk faltered, and for the first time, she seemed taken aback by Clara's confidence. We'll see how long this lasts, she muttered before walking away. As the luncheon continued, Clara and Daniel faced a mix of reactions. Some colleagues offered warm congratulations, while others kept their distance, clearly unsure of how to respond. But one investor, an older gentleman with a kind smile, approached them with an encouraging nod. I've been in this business a long time, he said, shaking Daniel's hand. And I can tell when people are genuine. You two have something real. Don't let the skeptics get to you. Thank you, Daniel said, his gratitude evident. Clara smiled, feeling a sense of relief she hadn't expected. Later that evening, as they walked back to their hotel, Clara turned to Daniel. That was intense, she admitted. Daniel chuckled. Understatement of the year. But we did it. Clara smiled faintly. Do you think people believed us? Daniel shrugged. The ones who matter will. And the rest, well, they'll come around or they won't. Either way, we're not hiding anymore. Clara stopped walking, turning to face him. I'm proud of you, you know. For standing up there and saying what you did. Daniel looked at her, his expression softening. I'm proud of you too. For standing beside me. In that moment, the doubts and fears that had plagued them both began to fade, replaced by a quiet certainty that they were on the right path, together. But the evening wasn't over yet. As they returned to their room, Daniel's phone buzzed with a message from a board member. Mariana's stirring up trouble, he said with a sigh, showing Clara the text. Clara's brow furrowed. What now? She's claiming this was all a publicity stunt to win favor with investors, Daniel explained. She's pushing for an investigation into our relationship. Clara's stomach sank. What does that mean for us? It means we have to be ready to fight, Daniel said, his jaw tightening. But I'm not letting her tear us down. Clara nodded, determination flaring in her chest. Neither am I. The following day, they met with the board to address Mariana's accusations. Daniel spoke with conviction, outlining the timeline of their relationship and emphasizing their commitment to both their work and each other. Clara, though nervous, shared her perspective with honesty, explaining how their feelings had evolved over time. Mariana, sitting across the table, listened with a smug expression, but the board members seemed more receptive to Clara and Daniel's sincerity. When the meeting concluded, the chairman leaned forward with a thoughtful look. Your honesty is appreciated, he said. And while this situation is unconventional, it's clear that your intentions are genuine. I see no reason to pursue this further. Relief washed over Clara and Daniel as they left the meeting, the weight of Mariana's schemes finally lifted. As they stepped into the elevator, Clara turned to Daniel, a smile breaking across her face. We did it, she said, her voice filled with disbelief. Daniel smiled back, his hand brushing hers. No, he said. You did it. You stood your ground, and you were incredible. Clara laughed, the sound light and free. I couldn't have done it without you. As the elevator doors opened, they stepped out into the lobby, the future suddenly feeling brighter than it had in weeks. For the first time, they weren't just pretending, they were building something real. And no matter what challenges lay ahead, they knew they would face them together. The weeks following the conference marked a new chapter for Clara and Daniel. With the dust of Mariana's schemes settled and the support of key investors solidified, they were free to embrace their relationship without fear. Life at the office shifted in subtle but meaningful ways. Clara, no longer just the assistant, had become an integral part of Daniel's life, both professionally and personally. One crisp morning, Daniel arrived at the office with a radiant energy that hadn't been there before. Clara, seated at her desk, looked up with a smile. You seem unusually chipper, she teased. Daniel leaned on her desk, his blue eyes gleaming. Why wouldn't I be? I've got the best team and the best partner. Clara rolled her eyes playfully but couldn't hide her blush. Flattery will get you everywhere, Mr. Carter. Not flattery, Daniel corrected, lowering his voice. Just the truth. As the days turned into months, their bond only deepened. Clara found herself stepping into larger roles within the company, taking on projects that showcased her intelligence and creativity. Her ideas brought fresh perspectives to the table, and even those who had initially doubted her began to see her as a force to be reckoned with. Daniel, meanwhile, thrived with Clara by his side. Her support grounded him, her insights sharpened his decisions, and her presence reminded him daily of the importance of balance. For the first time in years, Daniel allowed himself to think beyond quarterly earnings and market shares, to dream of a life filled with more than just business. One evening, after a particularly long day, Daniel invited Clara to dinner at his penthouse. The space, with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline, was as elegant and commanding as its owner. Clara had always admired the view, but that night, something felt different. As they finished dessert, Daniel stood and walked to the large window, his hands in his pockets. Clara watched him curiously, sensing his nerves. "Daniel, are you okay?" she asked, setting her glass down. He turned to her, his expression softer than she'd ever seen. "Clara," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "When we started this, it was supposed to be an act, a way to navigate a business deal. But it became so much more than that." Clara's heart raced as he approached her, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. He knelt before her, his gaze unwavering. "You've changed my life in ways I never imagined. You've shown me what it means to truly connect, to build something real. Clara, will you marry me?" Tears filled Clara's eyes as she nodded, her voice breaking. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times, yes. Their engagement quickly became the talk of the office and beyond, but this time, the whispers were of admiration and excitement. Their colleagues, who had witnessed their journey, rallied around them with genuine support. Even Mariana, though begrudgingly, kept her distance. The wedding was an intimate yet elegant affair, held in a sunlit garden surrounded by their closest friends, family, and colleagues. Clara wore a flowing ivory gown that seemed to glow in the late afternoon light, while Daniel looked every bit the dashing groom in a tailored suit. As they exchanged vows, their eyes never left each other, the love and trust they had built evident in every word. As the sun set on their wedding day, Clara and Daniel stood hand in hand, watching the sky blaze with hues of orange and pink. "This feels like a dream," Clara said softly, leaning into Daniel's shoulder. "It's not," Daniel replied, wrapping an arm around her. "It's real. And it's only the beginning." Clara smiled, her heart full. For the first time, she felt truly at peace, not just as Daniel's partner but as someone who had found her place in the world. Together, they had faced challenges, overcome doubts, and built a foundation of honesty and love. In the years that followed, Clara and Daniel continued to grow, both as individuals and as a couple. Their company thrived under their joint leadership, and their home became a haven of laughter, warmth, and shared dreams. They learned to navigate life's ups and downs together, always returning to the trust and connection that had brought them this far. Their story became one that inspired those around them, a reminder that love, when rooted in truth and respect, could flourish even in the unlikeliest of circumstances. And as they looked toward the future, they knew they could face anything as long as they had each other. Clara and Daniel's journey began with a daring plan, one rooted in deception but transformed by honesty, courage, and love. Through their trials, they discovered the power of vulnerability and the strength of standing together against all odds. Their story serves as a testament to the unexpected ways life can unfold when we dare to take a chance, and to the beauty of building something real out of the unlikeliest beginnings. Clara and Daniel's story is more than just a tale of romance, it's a powerful testament to the transformative power of honesty, resilience, and love. What began as a calculated business strategy blossomed into a relationship that broke barriers, challenged expectations, and brought two unlikely partners together. Through challenges, misunderstandings, and the courage to face the truth, they discovered that authenticity and connection are the true foundations of success, in both business and life. This journey reminds us that even in the most unconventional circumstances, love has the power to heal, inspire, and elevate us to greater heights. Clara and Daniel's partnership wasn't just about personal growth, it was about building trust, standing united in the face of adversity, and daring to dream of a future built on mutual respect and shared vision. Has this story touched your heart? Inspired you to believe in the power of second chances and true connections? If so, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we bring you more heartwarming and empowering stories like this. Join us in spreading positivity and hope, one incredible story at a time.